Hello, everyone. Welcome to attend today's webinar. I'm Jessie from CRIS Food Safety and Regulatory Department. And now I'm responsible for food contact compliance affairs. Last year, on November the 18th, the Chinese authority issued 52 food contact materials standards. And you could find them on our website. Among them, 50 standards has come into force on April the 19th this year. The rest two general standards, GB 9685 and the GB 4806.1 will be coming to force October the 19th this year. Okay. Let's start today's webinar. First, let's take a look at the outline. At the beginning, I would introduce the definition of food contact materials in China and give an overview of the new food contact materials and articles regulation system. Then I will analyze several important standards, including plastic resin standards, plastic materials and article standards, metal materials and article standards, and food contact coating standards. Then I will introduce the FCM food contact materials declaration of compliance and give the templates for each type of manufacturers, including raw materials manufacturers, intermediate materials manufacturers, and food and finished product manufacturers. Last, I will give some case study about how to be regulatory compliant under the new FCM system. Okay, first, let's see the definition of FCM in China. Food contact materials and articles means under the normal use condition, materials or articles which is already contact with food or food additives, or have the possibility to come into contact with food or transfer their hazardous ingredients into food. It includes food packaging materials, containers, tools, and the equipment that are contact with food in the process of food producing, processing, packaging, transportation, storage, sales, and use. Coatings, inks, adhesives, etc. that are contact with food directly or indirectly are included as well. However, detergents, disinfectants, and public water facilities are excluded. After understanding the definition of food contact materials in China, I'm going to give an overview of the new China food contact materials and articles regulation system. Actually, it is quite similar with the EU's regulation system. The China FCM regulation system can be classified into 4 parts. They are general standards, manufacturing practices, product standards, and the testing standards. The general standards have the same status like the EC standard, EC number 9035/2004, and the manufacturing practice is the GMP standards, just like EC number 2023/2006. The product standards have the same status with the EU 10/2011 plastic standards or some other standards like ceramic. Well, let's look into details about the China FCM regulation system. There are two standards under the general standards category. The first standard is GB 06.1 2016 General Safety Requirements for Food Contact Materials and Articles. It is a very important standard, as all food contact materials and articles in China shall comply with these standards. The second general standard is GB 9685 2016 standard for the use of additives for food contact materials and articles, which I guess most of you have heard about these standards. The additives added in food contact materials and articles shall be listed in these standards, and the applications, dosages, SML, QM, and other restrictions shall comply with this standard as well. The second part is the product standards. There are only 10 standards. You can see it's rubber nipple, enamel articles, ceramic articles, glass articles, plastic resin, plastic materials and articles, paperboard and paper articles, metal articles, and coatings, rubber materials and other articles. You may find that not all the product types, such as inks, adhesives, are included. Yes, they have no product standards now. Later, I will talk about how this product, which not has a product standards, be regulatory compliant. Next, let's see the test standards. Please note that the first two standards, GB 31604.1 and General Rules of Migration Test for Food Contact Materials and Articles, and GB 5009.156, General Rules of the Migration Test Pre-Treatment Method of Food Contact Materials and Articles. These two standards are the general standards in testing. All the migration tests shall comply with these two standards. Other standards are the specific test method standards. For example, GB 31604.7 is the decolorization test method, and GB 31604.9 is the heavy metal test method. The last part is the manufacturing practices, which are also known as GMP standards in China. As the FCM and the food contact materials shall comply with all the FCM shall comply with these standards. Okay, after have an overview of the new China food contact materials and articles regulation system, let's move to the next part. I'm going to introduce some specific product standards. Today, I will introduce 4 product standards. They are GB 48006.6 plastic resin and 48006.7 plastic materials and articles, and 48006.9 metal product and coating products. Let's see the plastic standards first. The GB 48006.6 food contact plastic resin replaced below 9 standards, and the notice released by MOH, which is now is called the NHFPC in 2011. Let's see its scope and terms and definition. This standard is applicable to the resin and the blend resin intended to produce food contact plastic materials and products, including thermoplastic, elastomer without vulcanization and their blends. Please kindly note that the vulcanized thermoplastic elastomer resins belongs to rubber. And let's see the terms and the definitions in China. What is resin in China? Resin refers to micromolecular substance obtained by a polymerization process such as polyaddition, polykondensation, microbifermentation, or by any other similar process of monomers and other starting substances as main materials, or chemical modification of natural micromolecules. And what is about blend resin? Blend resin refers to the solid polymer that mixed by two or more polymers which have different chemical constructions and physical conditions. The molecular structure of solid polymer is homogeneous and continuous, and each of its contained polymers can be regarded as the main structure component or face of the final materials and the moldings. Okay, let's move to the basic requirements of plastic resin. First, the basic requirement is that food contact plastic resin shall meet the GB 4806.1 2016 General Safety Rules for food contact materials and articles. That is, the level of substances that transfer to food shall not be hazardous to human health. Substances that migrate to food should not create a chemical function for food. Substances that migrate into food shall not cause changes in properties such as composition, texture, color, and the flavor of food. Then comes to the technical requirements. There are 5 requirements: raw material requirements, sensory requirements, physical and chemical index requirements, additives requirements, migration limit requirements. Let's see the raw materials requirements. First, the quality specification of the food contact resin, monomer, and other starting substances shall guarantee that the final product be safe to human health in the normal or expected using conditions. Please note that enterprises are the first person that bears the responsibility. And the approved food contact resin shall meet the requirements in Annex A and other relevant notices. Let's look at the migration limits and additives requirements. The index including SML, SMLT, QM of monomers and other starting substances shall meet the requirements in Annex A and other relevant notices. The additives added in food contact materials and articles shall meet the requirements in GB 9685 and the relevant notices. Let's have a look at the structure of Annex A, approved food contact plastic resins and usage requirements. We can see that it listed the SML, QM, SMLT, and other requirements about the specific resins. And the enterprises shall guarantee that their food contact resins in the list of Annex A, and they shall comply with its corresponding requirements. Let's look at another relevant standards, GB 4806.7, 2016. Food contact plastic materials and articles. These standards replaced below 12 product standards. We can have a look at this. And the scope and the terms. First, this standard is applicable to food contact materials, food contact plastic materials and articles, including thermoplastic, elastomer materials and articles without vulcanization. What is plastic materials in China? Let's see the definition. Plastic material is made of one or several resins or pre-polymers as main structural components with or without additives, and produced into a certain shape high polymer material between resin and plastic articles under specific temperature and pressure, including plastic particles or size, master batch, shape, etc. What is plastic articles? Plastic article is made of plastic resin or plastic material as the raw material with or without additive and produced into a certain shape finished article. Then is the master batch. Plastic additives which will affect the physical characters of plastic materials and articles, like coloring, painting, and stabilizer, will be attached exciting to one or several resins to make concentrate, here called master batch. And then the concentrate should be mixed with resin or particles to produce other plastic materials and finished products. The basic requirement is the same with plastic resin and should comply with the GB 4806.1 general safety rules for food contact materials and articles. The technical requirements is similar as well. Let's have a look at the physical and chemical index requirements. There are four indexes: the overall migration, the consumption of KMnO4, heavy metal, the coloring test. The test methods and the limit index are listed clearly in this table. Please note that for master batch, it shall be tested after producing into finished product contact, after finished food contact plastic articles. And for plastic materials and articles that contact infant food, the result should be converted into milligram per kilogram according to the ratio of area to volume when using, and the limit is sure not higher than 60 milligram per kilogram. The last should be noted is that please note that the decoloring test is only applicable to the products which containing colorant. Okay, next is food contact metal products and articles standards. The standard number is GB 4806.9, 2016. These standards replace below two standards, GB 9684 and GB 1153. The metal materials and article standards is applicable to the food contact metal products. and food contact metal materials and articles, including two parts. They are metal platings and alloy. The metal plating means metal film, which is formed on the surface of all kinds of solid materials and articles by plating technology. Here is the raw materials requirements. For metal substrates, metal plating, and soldering materials used on the food contact surface of food contact material of food contact metal materials and articles should not cause harm to human health. Second, the material composition, including the metal substrate and the plating, should be consistent with the metal grade or the composition indicated on the label. Stainless steel food containers is the main part of food production management tools and equipment should use austenitic stainless steel, austenitic ferritic stainless steel, ferritic stainless steel, and other stainless steel materials. Last, stainless steel tableware and the main part of the drills and grading tools of food production machinery and equipment, etc., can also use martensitic stainless steel. For the physical and chemical index, the requirements for stainless steel articles is different with other materials and articles. The stainless steel articles should have to test below 5 indexes. However, other metal products and articles should only test the first 3 indexes. And let's have a look. And these should only test the first 3. And the migration limit is different as well. Let's look at the lead. We can see that the lead for stainless, the migration limit for stainless steel is not higher than 0.05, and for other materials and articles, the index is not higher than 0.2. Please kindly note that. And here is also have special use requirements for metal materials and articles. For metal materials and articles, excluding tin-plated sheet containers, alumina and alumina alloys, copper and copper alloys, which not covered with organic coatings on its food contact surface, shall not be composed to acid food. Besides, metal plating shall not be exposed to acid food either. Please kindly note that. Iron-based materials and low alloy steel articles which not covered with organic coating shall not be exposed to acid food for a long time. Please kindly note acid food. Metal products also have the specific label requirements. First, the label should meet the requirements of GB 4806.1, and second, the material type and material composition, or the China standard grade, or the unified numbers, such as stainless steel. We can see that, or stainless steel S30408 or something, and so on. They should be clearly indicated in the metal substrate. Last, food contact surface coated with metal plating or organic coating. Metal plating or coating materials should be indicated, such as chromium plating, zinc nickel alloy plating, PTFE coating, and so on. When more than one layer of metal painting, the metal composition should be marked in order from the outer layers to the inner layers, and separated by slashes, such as this one. Okay, let's look at the another standards. Food contact coatings. The standard number is GB 4806.10, 2016. This standard replaced below 8 standards and the notice released by MOH in 2011. And this standard is applicable to the food contact coatings and the coating films. Please note that this standard is not applicable to coating and coating film of paper. Please kindly note paper. What is the food contact coating and coating films in China? That is, coating applied on the surface of food contact materials and articles and directly contact with food, and the formation of food film. The requirement for raw materials. Let's see. The positive list of reasons shall comply with the requirements of Annex A and the relevant announcements. You can see there is the positive list of reasons, and they have the restricted requirements. Here is the sensory requirements. Please kindly note that this sensory requirement is just for coating films, not including coatings. If your products are coatings, then you don't have to do this test. Here is the physical and chemical index. There are 3 indexes: total migration, the consumption of KMnO4, heavy metals. Please note for the food contact coating and the coating films that contact with infant food, the results should be converted. And the testing condition of coating on cooking and the drinking tools is different as well. Please note that. Here comes to the label requirements. First, it's similar with the other requirements. The label should meet the requirements of GB 4806.1. And the difference is that coating product should indicate the material's name of the substrate and coating films respectively. Okay, next part I'm going to introduce the declaration of compliance. Let's have a look at the background. First, it is the Food Safety Law of People's Republic of China, Article 41, indicated that produced food-related products shall comply with laws, regulations, and the national food safety standards. Manufacturing has the responsibility to test their products and guarantee their products pass the inspection before sale. And the general safety requirements for food contact materials and articles GB 2806.1 2016. Article 8 said that enterprises shall provide sufficient product information, including declaration of compliance, which is called DOC. The DOC shall include applicable regulations and standards, restrictions and the limitations of substances, evaluations of non-intentionally added substances, which is nice, migration, compliance, etc. We know that the GB 4806.1 will come into force in October of this year, which means that enterprises shall provide the DOC later. However, the content for different manufacturing type is different. Therefore, I've given 3 different templates for different manufacturing type for your reference. The first one is for raw material manufacturing. In the front, we can see there are basic informations: the product name, chemical name, class number if it has, and the manufacturing information, declarant, contact information of declarant. They are the basic information. And next is the regulatory compliance. Manufacturers should check if their products are comply with below general regulations. They are GB 4806.1, GB 9685, GB 31603 2015, the 3 general product regulations. And if they have strict requirements, then manufacturers should list the requirements. And raw material manufacturers should also have the responsibility to tell the downstream, such as the intermediate manufacturers, tell them that the product use suggestion, like the compatibility situation with other requirements, suggested use amount, the GMP requirement when using. Last is the disclaimer, suggestion, and statement date. This is for raw material manufacturers. Next is for downstream intermediate materials manufacturers. This template is we take plastic as an example. If your products are plastic or plastic resin, then you should indicate that the product materials, for example, PE, PC, or PP, etc. Then for the regulatory compliance, apart from the 3 general standards, manufacturers should also check if their products are comply with the product regulation, such as GB 4806.6 plastic resin standards and GB 4806.7 plastic materials and articles standards. And for the restricted substances and the requirements, manufacturer can list it in the table or in the annex. Please kindly note that substances which has no restrictions are allowed to keep unexposed for the considering of trade secrets. Last is the template for finished product manufacturers. The finished product DOC should list the product use condition. For example, contact food type, maximum contact time and temperature, maximum contact area, volume ratio, repeated use frequency, etc. For the compliance of substances limitation, supported documents are required. For example, test report, assessment report. Manufacturers, which we call a declarant, should archive them and provide them when needed when regulatory review. Let's come to the last part. I would like to give some compliance case studies on new regulatory system. Actually, product standards has already clearly guided you how to comply with the Chinese regulation. Let's take the rubber product as an example. We can see that the standard clearly listed the basic requirement. The requirement first is the basic requirement. The rubber materials shall comply with the GB 4806.1. And here comes to the technical requirements. They've told us that the requirements for the requirements for raw materials, sensory requirements, physical and chemical index requirements, additive requirements. These standards has already clearly listed the requirements, as well as the migration test requirements and the label requirements. Manufacturers should just follow the product standards step by step, and then your product would be Chinese regulatory compliant. However, what about a product that has its specific product standard, as we just said, such as inks and adhesives? Here we take inks as an example. First, the compliance procedure can be divided into 4 parts. First is the basic standards. All the FDM shall comply with GB 4806.1 and the GMP standards, GB 31603. This is the first. And the second, manufacturer can check if the raw materials and the additives are in the positive list. The raw materials for inks, you should check the list of 107 approved food contact resins in China, and notices of newly approved food contact additives released by NHFBC. For the additives, manufacturers shall check the GB 9685. Then after have check the raw materials and the additives, then we shall check if they are comply with the relevant requirements. First we shall confirm the requirements, and then we need to choose the applicable method to obtain the result of the restricted substances. We can choose the applicable method through these 2 general testing migration testing standards, GB 31604.1 and GB 5009.156. Last, have all done these procedures, we should check if the label and the product information are regulatory compliant. The applicable standard is GB 4806.1 2005. 16. After these 4 procedures, your product will be Chinese regulatory compliance. Okay, thank you very much for attending this webinar. The record and the presentation will be sent to you all later. And if you have any question, please feel free to contact me. Thank you again for your interest and attending.